Edit: she kept her pregnancy a secret until the Alpha King's scent locked onto the newborn pup. Why did she hide her pregnancy from the Alpha King? And what will happen now that his scent has recognized the newborn pup? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another emotional Alpha King story filled with secrets, powerful bonds, and unforgettable choices. Thank you for watching, supporting, and continuing this journey with us. Your encouragement means more than you know. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe a mother is ever justified in hiding her child from the father when she fears what might happen? Now settle in, listen closely, and let us begin on the night when one carefully guarded secret could no longer remain hidden. Whatever happens, Grace Miller gasped, do not let the Alpha King smell my son. Thunder shook the healer's cottage. Rain struck the wooden shutters while Sarah Collins pressed fresh linen beneath Grace's trembling hands. The room smelled of blood, burning herbs, and moonroot smoke. Grace had spent 9 months hiding beneath borrowed names. 9 months avoiding royal roads. 9 months waking from the same nightmare. Black armored guards taking her child while a sealed order declared that the mother of a royal heir possessed no rights. Another contraction seized her. Grace bit down on a folded cloth to keep from screaming. Push, Sarah urged. One more time. Grace pushed until pain became white fire. Then a newborn's cry filled the cottage. For one breath, the storm disappeared. Sarah lifted a small, red-faced boy into the candlelight. He is healthy. Grace began crying before Sarah placed him against her chest. The infant quieted beneath her heartbeat. Dark hair covered his tiny head. His fingers curled around the fabric of Grace's nightgown with surprising strength. My Noah, she whispered. The baby opened his eyes. For one impossible second, amber light flashed within them. The same amber as Ethan Blackwood's. Grace held him closer. Sarah saw it too. We need more moonroot. Grace looked toward the hearth. Only a handful of pale leaves remained. Moonroot had hidden the child's royal scent throughout the pregnancy, but newborn blood was stronger than anything Sarah had prepared for. She crushed the remaining leaves into the fire. Silver smoke rose through the room. Outside, bells began ringing. Not church bells. Warning bells. Sarah rushed to the window and opened the shutter a fraction. Torches moved along the village road. Black banners appeared between the rain-soaked buildings. At their center rode a towering man in dark medieval armor and a wolf fur cloak. Grace stopped breathing. Why is he here? Sarah closed the shutter. The missing silver shipments. The northern merchants said the crown was investigating. Tonight, Noah stirred against Grace. His scent changed. Warm milk. Rain. Newborn wolf. And beneath it, something ancient and royal. Sarah packed more damp cloth around the window frames. The smoke will hold. A violent gust struck the cottage. The old latch snapped. The shutter flew open. Wind tore through the room, scattering moonroot smoke into the storm. Grace clutched Noah to her chest. Across the road, Alpha King Ethan Blackwood pulled his horse to a sudden stop. Royal guards nearly collided behind him. Ethan's head turned toward the healer's cottage. His wolf surged beneath his skin with such force that his amber eyes brightened. For months, he had searched for Grace, the royal healer who vanished after one forbidden night, the woman whose scent had disappeared beyond the southern border. Now another scent reached him through the rain. Small, new, carrying his blood. His wolf spoke one word. Mine. Ethan dismounted. Inside the cottage, Noah began to cry. Each sound pulled the Alpha King closer. Grace struggled upright despite Sarah's protest. Lock the door. Sarah dropped the iron bar into place. Heavy footsteps crossed the muddy road. The cottage seemed to shrink around them. Grace looked at the sleeping child in her arms and remembered the royal order hidden beneath the floorboards. The child will be surrendered to the crown immediately after birth. The mother will be removed from all royal territory. Resistance will be treated as treason. A shadow stopped outside the door. Noah suddenly became silent. His tiny face turned toward the man on the other side. Then 3 slow knocks sounded through the cottage. Grace, Ethan said. His voice was lower than the thunder. I can smell the child. Do not come any closer, Grace said. Silence followed outside the cottage. Ethan did not touch the door. Is the child safe? Grace tightened her arms around Noah. That is not your concern. A low growl vibrated through the wood. Not anger. Pain. Sarah moved beside Grace and gripped the iron poker near the hearth. The mother has just given birth, she called. If you force your way inside, you may harm them both. The pressure of Ethan's alpha presence immediately weakened. When he spoke again, his voice was controlled. I will not force the door. Grace looked down at Noah. The newborn had stopped crying. His tiny face remained turned toward the entrance as though he recognized the man beyond it. Grace hated how much that frightened her. Ethan Blackwood had found them within minutes of Noah's birth. The royal order beneath the floorboards had warned her exactly what would happen next. Her son would be taken. She would disappear. Leave, Grace said. Footsteps moved away. For one hopeful moment, she believed he had obeyed. Then Ethan's voice came through the window. My soldiers are withdrawing to the road. I will remain alone. Sarah glanced through the broken shutter. He sent them back. Grace did not answer. Rain swept into the room, carrying Ethan's scent through the moonroot smoke. Pine, cold iron, storm-dark earth. Noah made a soft sound. His little fist opened against Grace's chest. The amber light returned to his eyes. Then he reached toward the window. Grace's heart twisted. He does not know you, she whispered. But Noah's newborn wolf knew. So did Ethan's. The Alpha King stood in the rain without his sword. He had removed his heavy cloak and placed it over the fence, making himself appear smaller despite his towering frame. Grace remembered another night. A quiet royal infirmary. Ethan sitting beside her after an assassination attempt, allowing her to stitch his shoulder while he confessed how much he hated being treated like a throne instead of a man. That night, the mate bond between them had awakened. By morning, Grace had found the sealed order waiting in her chamber. She had fled before he could take everything from her. Noah whimpered. His breathing became uneven. Sarah touched his forehead. His scent is searching for the matching bloodline. Grace looked at her sharply. What does that mean? He needs to know the wolf outside is real. Grace wanted to refuse. But Noah's small body trembled against her. She could risk her own life. Not his. Open the door, she whispered. Sarah lifted the iron bar. Ethan entered slowly. He stopped several steps inside and raised his empty hands. Rain clung to his dark hair. His amber eyes found Grace first. Every emotion he had hidden as king broke across his face. Relief, confusion, betrayal. Then he saw Noah. Ethan's wolf surged so powerfully that the candles flickered. Grace turned her body, shielding the child. Ethan immediately lowered himself to one knee. I will not take him. You expect me to believe that? I expect nothing from you. Noah began crying again. Ethan looked at him, but did not move closer. May I speak? Grace said nothing. He took her silence as permission. Little one, Ethan murmured. Noah's crying stopped. The newborn opened his amber eyes and stared at the kneeling Alpha King. Ethan's breath caught. His hand lifted instinctively. Grace stepped back. He froze before touching them. His fingers slowly closed. Tell me to leave, and I will, he said. But do not tell me I cannot recognize my own blood. Grace's fear hardened into anger. She shifted Noah into Sarah's arms, knelt beside the floorboards, and pulled out the document she had carried across 3 territories. The black royal seal remained unbroken. She threw it at Ethan's knees. You recognized him tonight, Grace said. Your crown claimed him 9 months ago. Ethan opened the order. As he read the command stripping Grace of every maternal right, all color left his face. At the bottom stood his name. Beside it rested the unmistakable seal of the Alpha King. Ethan looked up. I never gave this order. Then prove it, Grace said. Ethan remained on one knee. The royal order opened between his hands. The fire cracked behind him. Noah rested against Sarah's shoulder, quiet now that Ethan's scent filled the cottage. The newborn's tiny fingers curled into the midwife's shawl while his amber eyes followed the Alpha King. Grace hated that the sight softened something inside her. She forced it closed. The seal is authentic, Ethan said. So is your name. The signature is not mine. You expect a woman who crossed 3 territories while pregnant to trust the shape of your handwriting? His jaw tightened, but he did not rise. No, the answer surprised her. Ethan placed the document on the floor where she could still see it. I expect you to trust nothing until I give you evidence. Grace folded her arms despite the pain in her body. Then you will accept my conditions. Sarah glanced at her, but Grace did not hesitate. Noah will not be announced as your heir. Ethan's wolf stirred at the child's name. He controlled it. Agreed. No royal guard removes him from my arms. Agreed. You will not use an alpha command, make command, or bloodline law against me. His expression changed. Grace knew why. Make commands between bonded wolves were forbidden except in battle, yet kings had ignored that rule for generations. I have never commanded you through the bond, Ethan said. And you never will. Agreed. The investigation into this order will be public. No sealed hearing. No council decision made behind closed doors. This condition troubled him most. Grace saw it in the brief silence. A public investigation could expose weakness inside the royal court. It could challenge the authority of the crown. Ethan rose slowly. Give me parchment. Sarah found a blank birth record and turned it over. Ethan wrote each condition in his own hand. When he finished, he removed the signet ring from his finger and pressed it into warm candle wax. Grace studied the impression. A crowned wolf. 2 complete fangs. The seal on the false order showed the same crowned wolf, but the left fang curved slightly inward. Ethan noticed it too. He brought both documents closer to the fire. That mark should not exist. Grace watched his face. What is it? My father's seal. The cottage fell silent. King William Blackwood had died 6 years earlier. His ceremonial signet had been buried with him, but the iron mold used to create royal seals had remained in the palace treasury. Who has access to the mold? Grace asked. Ethan's eyes hardened. Only the regent and the keeper of succession records. Names. The keeper died last winter. And the regent? Ethan looked toward the storm beyond the window. My uncle. Grace had met Marcus Hale twice. Both times, he had smiled as though kindness were another weapon he kept polished. Sarah shifted Noah carefully. The baby whimpered. Ethan turned toward him instinctively, then stopped himself before taking a step. Grace noticed. He had obeyed every boundary without being reminded. That did not erase the order. It did not erase 9 months of fear, but it changed the shape of the man standing before her. Ethan placed the signed agreement on the table. You keep the original. And the false order? You keep that too. You are leaving evidence with someone you barely trust. I am leaving evidence with the person it was used to threaten. Grace read the agreement again. Every condition was there. No hidden clause. No claim over Noah. No command over her. She signed beneath Ethan's name. The moment the ink dried, a horn sounded outside. Daniel Reed entered through the open doorway, rain streaming from his armor. My king, we intercepted a rider leaving Frost Hollow. Ethan turned. For whom? Daniel held out a sealed message. The wax bore a wolf divided by a vertical blade. Marcus Hale's crest. Grace felt the room grow colder. Ethan broke the seal. Only one sentence waited inside. The child has been found. Prepare the hall of succession. Noah began crying. This time, Ethan's wolf did not say mine. It said danger. His scent is burning through the moonroot, Sarah said. The child cannot remain hidden any longer. Noah's cry pierced the cottage. Grace lifted him from the cradle, but his tiny body felt frighteningly hot. Sweat dampened his dark hair, and flashes of amber light moved beneath his closed eyelids. Ethan crossed the room, then stopped before reaching her. What does he need? I do not know. Sarah pressed 2 fingers beneath Noah's jaw. The moonroot suppressed his bloodline, sent before his wolf understood what it was. Now his body is fighting to recognize its own pack. Grace stared at her. You said the herbs were safe. For a pregnant mother, yes. Not for a newborn carrying royal blood. Noah arched against Grace's chest. His cry weakened. Ethan's wolf surged beneath his skin, filling the cottage with pine, iron, and cold earth. Noah immediately drew a deeper breath. Grace noticed. So did Sarah. He needs both bloodlines near him, the midwife said. His mother to anchor him, his father to answer the scent. Grace tightened her hold. No claiming mark. Ethan's expression hardened with pain, not anger. I would never mark a newborn. No make command. I gave you my word. Sarah prepared cool cloths while Grace sat beside the fire with Noah against her heart. Ethan lowered himself several feet away. The moment his scent settled through the room, Noah's trembling eased. Grace watched Ethan remain perfectly still. He did not reach for the child. He did not use the authority in his blood. He simply stayed. Hours passed. The storm weakened beyond the shutters. Whenever Noah's breathing became uneven, Ethan's scent deepened. Whenever Grace whispered to him, the child's heartbeat steadied beneath her palm. Near midnight, Noah finally slept. Grace looked toward Ethan. You can rest. I am not tired. You have been kneeling on a wooden floor for 3 hours. I have endured council meetings that were more painful. Despite herself, Grace almost smiled. Ethan saw it. He did not celebrate the small victory. That restraint mattered more than she wanted it to. Sarah examined Noah again. The fever is falling. Grace's shoulders loosened. Then a silver glow appeared beneath the child's skin. A crescent-shaped mark formed below his collarbone. Sarah stumbled backward. Ethan rose. What is it? Grace touched the mark carefully. Noah did not wake. Sarah moved to an old cabinet and removed a leather-bound healer's journal. Its pages were yellow with age. She opened it to a drawing of a crowned wolf beneath 2 moons. The same crescent rested beneath the wolf's throat. That symbol belonged to the first king who united the packs, Sarah whispered. Ethan studied the page. Alaric Blackwood. His mother was not Blackwood, Sarah said. She belonged to the Silver Moon bloodline. Grace's blood went cold. Her mother had once warned her never to speak of the pale wolf that appeared in their family dreams. A bloodline hunted for generations. A bloodline powerful rulers had tried to control through marriage, imprisonment, and forced heirs. Noah stirred. The silver crescent brightened. Ethan looked at Grace. This came from you. Before she could answer, glass shattered near the hearth. A burning bottle struck the floor. Flames raced across the dried moonroot. Daniel dragged Sarah toward the door, while Ethan covered Grace and Noah with his body. Outside, a rider fled through the ring. Royal guards pursued him into the darkness. Grace stared at the burning herbs. Someone had not tried to kill them. Someone had destroyed the only substance capable of hiding Noah's scent. Ethan lifted his sword. They want every royal wolf between here and the capital to know he exists. Noah opened his amber eyes. The silver moon beneath his skin continued to glow. Grace held him closer. The secret she had protected for 9 months was no longer merely exposed. It had become a beacon. I will carry my son through those gates, Grace said. No guard, no counselor, and no king will take him from my arms. Blackwood Castle rose above the mountain road beneath banners of black and silver. Grace sat beside Ethan in the royal carriage, Noah sleeping against her chest. The crescent beneath his collarbone had faded, but his scent remained impossible to conceal. Hundreds of wolves waited inside the courtyard. Council elders stood beneath the stone arches. Royal guards formed 2 disciplined lines. Nobles crowded the balconies, drawn by rumors of a newborn carrying the Alpha King's blood. At the center of them all stood Marcus Hale. His silver ceremonial cloak concealed the crest Grace had seen on the intercepted message. Ethan looked through the carriage window. I can clear the courtyard. No, they are waiting to turn him into a declaration. Then they will see his mother before they see an heir. The carriage stopped. A guard opened the door and reached toward Noah. Grace turned away. Ethan's voice became cold. She said she would carry him. The guard immediately stepped back. Grace descended without assistance. Her body still ached from childbirth. Each step pulled at exhausted muscles, but she kept Noah secure against her heart. Ethan walked beside her, close enough to protect, far enough not to claim. Marcus descended the palace stairs with a practiced smile. Your Majesty, the court rejoices that the lost royal bloodline has been recovered. Recovered? Grace asked. We were not stolen property. Marcus's smile thinned. Of course not. I merely refer to the child's rightful place. His rightful place is with me. Whispers moved through the courtyard. Marcus looked toward Ethan. The hall of succession has been prepared. Once the child is presented, the council can confirm him as heir. No ceremony will occur today, Ethan said. Marcus's gaze sharpened. The kingdom requires certainty. My son requires rest. The word son rippled through the watching wolves. Noah stirred. His small face turned toward the courtyard. Then his scent spread. Warm milk, rainwater, blackwood pine, and beneath them, the pale, ancient fragrance of moonlit stone. Every royal wolf reacted. Guards lowered their spears. Nobles gripped the balconies. Ethan's own wolf surged beneath his skin, powerful enough to make the courtyard torches bend. Grace held Noah tighter. One by one, the royal wolves lowered their heads. Not to Ethan, to her. The first guard knelt. Then the second. Within moments, every shifted instinct in the courtyard had bowed before Grace and the child in her arms. Even Ethan's wolf lowered its head. Marcus went pale. That is impossible. Sarah stepped from the carriage behind them. No, she said. It is older than your laws. A silver mark glowed briefly beneath Grace's wrist. The same pale crescent appeared on Noah's skin. An elder stared at them in disbelief. The silver moon line. Marcus recovered quickly. An extinct bloodline cannot determine royal authority. It is not determining authority, Sarah replied. It is recognizing protection. Grace looked at her. Sarah raised her voice so the courtyard could hear. Under the oldest pack law, a silver moon mother is the first legal guardian of any child carrying her blood. No throne may claim the child while she lives and remains capable of protecting him. The nobles erupted into argument. Marcus turned toward Ethan. This changes nothing. The child still carries Blackwood blood. It changes everything, Grace said. You cannot separate us without breaking the law your throne was built upon. For the first time since Noah's birth, the fear inside her loosened. The entire court had witnessed the truth. No sealed order could erase it now. Marcus studied the bowed wolves. Then he looked at Grace with open calculation. This is not recognition, he declared. It is enchantment. The courtyard fell silent. Marcus pointed toward her. The healer vanished after binding the Alpha King through a forbidden mate bond. Now she returns with a child and forces every royal wolf to kneel. Ethan stepped forward. Choose your next words carefully. Marcus did not retreat. She has used silver moon magic to control the crown. Grace felt every gaze turned toward her. Marcus's accusation spread through the courtyard like poison. Then he delivered the blow he had prepared. Until the Bloodline Council examines her, Grace Miller must be separated from the child. Separate me from my son, Grace said, and every wolf in this courtyard will know exactly what your laws protect. Marcus Hale's expression remained calm. The Bloodline Council protects the throne. No, Grace replied. It protects men who confuse inheritance with ownership. Noah stirred against her chest. Ethan stepped between Grace and the royal guards gathering near the stairs. No one touches them. Marcus raised his voice for the watching court. Then the Alpha King refuses lawful examination. A ruler influenced by forbidden magic cannot be trusted to govern. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Marcus had created a perfect choice. If Ethan surrendered Grace, he kept his throne and lost her trust. If he protected her, Marcus could declare him compromised. Ethan removed the crown from his head. Gasps swept across the courtyard. He placed it on the stone railing. My authority does not depend on a woman losing her rights. Marcus's composure cracked. You would endanger 7 territories for a healer? For a citizen threatened by a law that should never have existed. Grace looked at Ethan. You knew about that law. Silence followed. His amber eyes met hers. Yes. The answer hurt more than denial would have. You knew a royal mother could be separated from her child. I knew the statute existed. And you left it untouched. I believed no one would dare invoke it during my reign. Grace's anger sharpened. So it became cruel only when it threatened someone you loved? Ethan did not defend himself. Yes. The honesty stopped her. He continued quietly. That failure is mine. I cannot erase it by protecting only you. Marcus seized the opening. Your Majesty has admitted negligence. Until the council determines whether his judgment remains sound, royal authority must pass temporarily to the regent. Several elders lowered their heads. The succession statute allowed it. Daniel Reed moved closer to Ethan. Give the order, and I will remove Hale. Ethan looked toward Grace. She understood what he was asking without words. Not permission to save her. Permission to let her choose the battlefield. Grace adjusted Noah's blanket. There will be no private council. Marcus frowned. You are in no position to dictate terms. I am the accused mother, the surviving witness to a forged royal order, and the legal guardian recognized by ancient pack law. Her voice carried through the courtyard. I demand a public hearing before representatives of every territory. An elder stepped forward. She has that right under the First Blood Charter. Marcus's jaw tightened. Grace continued. All evidence will be presented openly. The false order. The royal seal. My medical records. The law you intended to use against me. She turned toward Ethan. And you will not preside. Surprise crossed the court. Grace held his gaze. If this hearing is about whether your power was abused, you cannot control its outcome. Ethan nodded. Agreed. Marcus stared at him. You would surrender judgment to her? No, Ethan said. I am surrendering it to the law. He lifted the crown from the railing but did not place it on his head. Grace Miller will lead the public inquiry. Until it concludes, Daniel Reed will command palace security, and no member of the royal family may remove Noah from his mother. Marcus's eyes turned cold. The council meets at dawn. No, Grace said. At noon, in the Hall of Seven Packs, with the doors open. She looked across the bowed wolves. Let everyone see what kind of kingdom this truly is. Marcus gave a shallow bow. As you wish. He turned and entered the castle. Grace watched him disappear beneath the stone archway. Ethan remained beside her. I should have changed that law years ago, he said. Yes. I cannot ask you to forgive what I ignored. No, he accepted both answers. That mattered. A nurse approached and offered to prepare rooms for Grace and Noah. Grace followed her inside, while Ethan remained with Daniel in the courtyard. At the top of the western stairs, Noah suddenly woke. His amber eyes flashed. Then every protective ward in the corridor went dark. Grace froze. A bell rang from the nursery wing. Once. Twice. Then a terrified guard shouted from behind the sealed doors. The child's chamber has been breached. Grace looked down. Her arms were empty. The blanket against her chest still carried Noah's warmth. But her son was gone. He did not take Noah from my arms, Grace said. He made me believe I was still holding him. The blanket collapsed between her hands. A silver thread shimmered across its edge before dissolving into smoke. An illusion. Grace remembered the nurse brushing against her at the foot of the stairs. One hand had adjusted Noah's blanket, while the other concealed the exchange. Ethan reached the corridor moments later. His face changed when he saw Grace's empty arms. Every torch along the wall flared beneath the force of his wolf. Seal the castle. No, Grace said. He turned toward her. If Marcus has Noah, closing every gate will force him deeper underground. He wants you searching as a king. Her silver mark burned beneath her wrist. I will find him as his mother. Grace closed her eyes. Beyond the sense of stone, frightened guards, and extinguished wards, she felt a fragile pulse. Warm milk. Rain. Blackwood pine. Noah. The connection pulled toward the eastern wall. Grace followed it through the healer's wing, where Marcus's soldiers had overturned medicine cabinets and scattered herbs across the floor. Ethan moved ahead of her. She caught his arm. Beside me. His wolf resisted. The father inside him wanted to tear through every door between them and their child. But Ethan stepped back. Beside her, Grace pressed her palm against an old cabinet carved with medicinal symbols. One crescent matched the mark beneath her wrist. The wall opened. A narrow staircase descended beneath the castle. These tunnels belonged to the Silver Moon Healers, Grace whispered. Daniel remained above with the guards while Grace and Ethan entered alone. The passage smelled of dust, iron, and old lavender. Halfway below, they found Sarah chained inside a storage chamber. Ethan broke the lock. Where is Noah? Grace asked. Sarah struggled upright. Marcus took him to the Hall of Succession. The ceremony begins before dawn. She pointed towards several leather journals scattered beside the wall. My original records. He kept them because he needed proof of the child's blood after you were removed. Grace opened the first journal. Every appointment from her pregnancy was documented. So were Marcus's payments to the palace physician, the men who followed her beyond the southern border, and the courier who delivered the false royal order. He planned everything, Ethan said. Sarah nodded. He wanted Grace frightened enough to disappear, but alive long enough to give birth. Once Noah was born, Marcus intended to bring him back without his mother. Grace turned another page. A note had been written beside the expected birth date. The king will recognize the child. Ensure recognition occurs only after the mother is discredited. Ethan's hands curled into fists. He knew my scent would confirm Noah. He needed it, Sarah said. Your recognition gives the child legitimacy. Grace's disappearance gives Marcus control. A bell sounded through the tunnels. The first succession bell. 3 more would complete the ritual. Grace gathered the journals. Which passage reaches the hall? Sarah pointed toward the lower arch, but Marcus sealed it with royal blood. Ethan drew his dagger and cut his palm. He pressed it against the stone. Nothing happened. Grace stepped beside him. The crescent beneath her wrist glowed. She placed her hand over his blood. The wall split open. The passage had not required royal blood alone. It required both bloodlines. They entered a corridor beneath the Hall of Succession. Above them, Marcus's voice echoed through the stone. The child has been abandoned by a mother who concealed him and a king corrupted by forbidden magic. Grace's breathing stopped. Noah cried overhead. Ethan reached for the stairway. Grace caught his hand. He wants you to enter first, so he can call this a king reclaiming his heir. Another bell rang. Grace looked toward the doors above. Then he will see a mother reclaiming her son. She climbed the stairs with Ethan beside her. At the top, the final iron door stood beneath the ceremonial platform. Beyond it waited the Bloodline Council, the Royal Guards, and Marcus Hale. And at the center of the hall, Noah was crying inside a silver circle. He is my son before he is your heir. Grace's voice cut through the hall of succession. Every elder turned. Marcus Hale stood beside the silver circle at the center of the chamber, one hand raised above Noah's cradle. Royal guards lined the walls beneath ancient wolf banners, while members of the Bloodline Council watched from carved stone seats. Ethan entered behind Grace. He wore no crown. Marcus smiled. You arrived too late. The third bell has already sounded. Noah cried inside the circle. Silver light crawled across the floor beneath him, binding his scent to the throne. Grace stepped forward. The royal guards lowered their spears. Marcus pointed toward her. Seize the silver moon witch. No one moved. Grace continued walking. I said seize her. 2 guards advanced. Ethan's wolf rose beneath his skin, but Grace lifted one hand. Do not fight for me. He stopped. This was her choice. Her son. Her truth. Marcus gripped the ceremonial blade beside the cradle. The mother concealed royal blood, fled the kingdom, and corrupted the Alpha King. By succession law, the child belongs to the crown. Grace opened Sarah's journals. The child was hidden because you forged an order threatening to take him. She threw the false decree onto the council floor. Then she placed the pregnancy records beside it. The royal seal came from King William's mold. The courier was paid from your private treasury. The physician who tracked me answered to you. Murmurs spread through the hall. Marcus pressed the blade against the silver circle. You have no authority here. Noah screamed. The sound struck Grace like a hand around her heart. Silver fire climbed the cradle. Her mark burned beneath her wrist. For years, Grace had hidden the pale wolf inside her. Her mother had taught her to suppress it. Kings had hunted women carrying silver moon blood because their wolves could recognize truth beneath ritual, law, and scent. Grace had believed hiding made her safe. Now hiding was hurting her son. She stepped into the circle. Silver pain tore through her body. Ethan moved toward her. Grace. She looked back once. Stand beside me. Not before her. Not over her. Beside her. Ethan entered the edge of the circle, absorbing part of its force without touching Noah. Grace reached the cradle. Marcus swung the ceremonial blade. Her wolf awakened. Silver light erupted through the hall. Grace shifted between one breath and the next. A great pale wolf stood where the healer had been, her fur glowing beneath the moon's symbols carved into the ceiling. The council rose in shock. Grace struck the ritual blade from Marcus's hand. Then she broke the silver boundary with one sweep of her claws. The circle shattered. Noah's cry stopped. Grace shifted back and lifted him into her arms. The newborn buried his face against her chest. Ethan removed the royal scent stone from the succession altar. Marcus backed away. That stone answers to the throne. No, Ethan said. It answers to blood. He placed the forged order against it. The stone darkened and released Marcus's scent. Cold cedar. Bitter silver. The chamber filled with it. Ethan placed one hand against the stone. Blackwood pines spread through the hall. Noah turned toward him. The stone blazed amber. Then Grace touched it. Moonlit stone and healing herbs filled the chamber. The silver crescent beneath Noah's collarbone glowed. Both bloodlines. Both parents. One truth. Marcus drew a hidden dagger. Daniel Reed caught his wrist before he reached Grace. Royal guards surrounded him. Marcus looked toward the council. You need me. The child requires a regent. Grace held Noah close. My son requires no man who mistakes control for protection. The eldest councilwoman rose. The evidence is witnessed. The forged order bears Marcus Hale's scent. The child carries Blackwood and silver moonblood. One by one, the royal guards knelt. Not to Marcus. Not even to Ethan. They knelt before Grace, holding Noah outside the broken circle. Ethan stood beside her. He did not claim them. He did not announce an heir. He simply looked at his son, then at the woman who had saved him. Marcus was dragged from the hall as the final bell remained silent. Grace pressed her lips to Noah's forehead. For the first time since his birth, no law stood between mother and child. and no throne could deny whose arms had protected him first. Before the crown recognizes him as an heir, Grace said, it will recognize him as a child. 7 days after Marcus Hale's arrest, the Hall of Seven Packs opened its doors. No silver circle remained on the floor. Workers had removed every piece of the ritual that once attempted to bind Noah to the throne. In its place stood a simple wooden cradle beside Grace's chair. Noah slept beneath a dark blue blanket. Ethan sat across from Grace without his crown. Representatives from every territory filled the hall. Healers stood beside council elders. Mothers who had lost children to bloodline laws occupied the front benches. Marcus stood under guard near the western wall. Sarah's medical journals rested on the central table beside the forged order, the old royal seal mold, and the records of every payment Marcus had made during Grace's pregnancy. The evidence left no room for denial. Marcus was convicted of kidnapping, forgery, conspiracy against the crown, abuse of succession law, and attempting to separate a newborn from his legal guardian. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in the northern fortress. As the guards led him away, he looked toward Noah. That child belongs to history. Grace rose. No child belongs to history before he belongs to himself. The doors closed behind Marcus. Then the council turned toward the laws that had made his plan possible. Grace carried Noah to the center of the hall. For generations, royal bloodline law has treated mothers as temporary vessels and children as property waiting to be claimed. Several elders lowered their eyes. Ethan did not. He faced every word. Grace continued. A scent may identify blood. It does not create ownership. A mate bond may reveal connection. It does not replace consent. A crown may protect a child. It does not possess one. The council presented a new succession charter. No mother could be separated from her child without a public hearing and evidence of immediate danger. No newborn could be declared royal property. Scent recognition could confirm parentage but could not determine custody, inheritance, or personal loyalty. Mate commands were forbidden outside immediate life-threatening emergencies. Any child carrying royal blood would choose whether to accept succession duties upon reaching adulthood. One by one, the representatives approved the charter. Ethan signed last. His hand paused above the parchment. This law should have existed before Grace needed it, he said. The fact that it did not is a failure of my reign. He pressed his seal into the wax. No one applauded him for admitting it. Grace knew he did not expect them to. After the hearing, the elders prepared to announce Noah as the future Alpha King. Grace stopped them. He has been alive for 1 week. The eldest councilwoman nodded. Then how shall the records identify him? Grace looked at Ethan. He waited. Write Noah Miller Blackwood, she said. Son of Grace Miller and Ethan Blackwood. No title. The clerk recorded every word. That evening, Grace stood in the castle gardens beneath newly opened white blossoms. Noah slept in her arms. Ethan approached without guards, armor, or crown. He stopped several feet away. The council offered you the position of Royal Luna. I declined. I know. You are not going to ask why. I know that too. Grace studied him. And what do you think I want? To reopen the Independent Healer Network. To protect women carrying rare bloodlines. To ensure no medical record can disappear inside a royal archive again. A small smile touched her face. You have been listening. I should have listened sooner. Noah stirred. His amber eyes opened and fixed on Ethan. The Alpha King's expression softened. He did not step closer. Grace remembered the first night in Frost Hollow, when Ethan had knelt in the rain and stopped his own hand before touching their son. He had recognized Noah through instinct. Everything after that had been a choice. Ethan looked at Grace. I will not ask you to become Luna. Good. I will not ask you to forgive me because Marcus deceived us. Also good. He took a slow breath. May I be his father? Grace looked down at Noah. Being his father means more than protecting his bloodline. I know. It means waking when he cries. I can do that. It means listening when he becomes someone different from what the throne expects. I will learn. It means accepting that he may never want your crown. Ethan's eyes remained steady. Then the crown will belong to someone else. Grace moved closer. For the first time, she placed Noah into Ethan's arms. The towering Alpha King looked almost afraid to breathe. Noah stared up at him, then wrapped one tiny hand around Ethan's finger. Amber light flickered in both their eyes. Ethan lowered his head and pressed a gentle kiss to his son's hair. Grace felt the mate bond warm between them. Not demanding, not commanding, waiting. Ethan looked at her. May I court you again? From the beginning. Without a throne, a bond, or a child deciding the answer for you. Grace allowed the silence to remain. Then she touched Noah's blanket. You may walk beside us. Hope entered Ethan's face. What comes after that? Grace met his amber eyes. We choose together. They left the garden side by side. No royal guards followed. No council announced them. And Noah slept between two people who had finally learned the difference between recognizing a family and earning the right to become one. They did not set fire to the clinic to destroy the medicine, Grace said. They wanted the mothers to run where someone could see them. 6 weeks after the new succession charter became law, smoke rose above the Northern Healer Sanctuary. Grace arrived before the royal guards. Pregnant women crowded the snow-covered courtyard while healers carried infants from the eastern wing. Flames climbed the wooden roof, but the stone medicine vault remained untouched. Ethan dismounted beside Grace with Noah secured against his chest beneath a dark wool cloak. You brought him here? The palace nursery is protected by guards Marcus appointed, Ethan said. Until Daniel replaces every one of them. Noah stays where I can see him. Grace almost argued. Then Noah reached from beneath the cloak and caught a strand of her hair. She touched his small hand. Stay outside the smoke. Ethan nodded. No command. No protest. Grace entered the clinic with Sarah and 2 healers. The fire had started in the records room. Shelves burned along the walls, but the patient ledgers were missing. Someone had removed them before lighting the room. Grace found muddy footprints near the rear door. They knew exactly which records mattered. Sarah's face tightened. The bloodline files. The sanctuary protected women carrying rare wolf bloodlines. Many had come after hearing what Marcus had done to Grace. Their names, pregnancy dates, family histories, and safe locations had all been stored in the missing ledgers. A scream came from the upper floor. Grace ran toward the stairs. A young woman stood behind a collapsed beam, one arm wrapped around her stomach. I cannot shift, she cried. The smoke. Grace covered her mouth with a wet cloth and crawled beneath the broken timber. The woman's wolf scent carried traces of frost and cedar. 6 months pregnant. Grace reached her. Look at me. We are leaving together. The ceiling groaned. Outside, Ethan handed Noah to Daniel and entered through the shattered doorway. Grace saw him through the smoke. Support the beam, she ordered. Ethan lifted the burning timber with both hands. Grace guided the woman beneath it while Sarah cleared the stairs. Only after they reached the courtyard did Ethan release the beam. The upper floor collapsed behind him. He emerged through sparks and snow. His armor blackened, but his expression controlled. Grace examined the rescued woman. Is the child moving? The woman nodded through tears. Grace placed one hand against her stomach. A faint heartbeat answered. Alive. Daniel approached carrying a leather strap, recovered near the rear gate. A silver emblem hung from it. A crown wolf divided by a vertical blade. Marcus Hale's crest. Ethan's eyes hardened. He is imprisoned in the northern fortress. Then someone is continuing his work, Grace said. A royal scout arrived from the forest. We found wagon tracks leading east. 3 riders. They carried sealed record cases. Grace looked toward the frightened mothers gathered in the courtyard. The attackers had not wanted medicine. They wanted names. They wanted every hidden bloodline Marcus had failed to control. Ethan reached for his sword. I will send riders after them. Grace caught his arm. Not royal banners. He looked at her. If the thieves see the crown pursuing them, they will destroy the ledgers. What do you suggest? Grace turned toward Sarah. Prepare an empty medicine wagon. Cover the royal horses. We follow as healers, not soldiers. Ethan glanced toward Noah and Daniel's arms. Grace understood the choice before he spoke. You should remain with him. And let you enter another trap alone? You asked to be his father. I did. Then protect him now. The words hurt him, but he accepted them. Ethan removed his wolf fur cloak and placed it around Grace's shoulders. Return to us. Grace fastened the clasp. That is not a command. No, his amber eyes held hers. It is a hope. Grace climbed onto the healer's wagon beside Sarah. As they followed the tracks into the eastern forest, Noah began crying behind them. Grace felt the silver moon mark beneath her wrist grow warm. Not fear. Warning. Somewhere beyond the trees, another child carrying ancient blood had begun to cry with him. That child is not calling for help, Grace said. He is calling for someone who shares his blood. The healer's wagon moved beneath the eastern forest canopy. Snow muffled the wheels while Sarah guided the horses between dark pines. Grace sat beside her, one hand pressed over the silver moon mark burning beneath her wrist. Each time the distant child cried, the mark pulled them farther from the rider's tracks. They separated, Sarah said. 3 sets of hoofprints continued toward the eastern road. A 4th disappeared between the trees. Grace pointed toward the narrower trail. The ledgers went east. The child went north. Sarah tightened the reins. The records contain every hidden bloodline under our protection. And a living child matters before written names. They turned north. The trail ended at an abandoned monastery surrounded by frozen statues. No smoke rose from its chimney, yet fresh footprints marked the steps. Grace climbed down and removed Ethan's cloak. Beneath it, she carried no royal crest. Only healer's knives, bandages, and a small vial of sleeping herbs. Sarah caught her arm. We should wait for guards. Whoever took that child expects soldiers. Grace pushed open the monastery door. Inside, candles burned around a stone cradle. A newborn boy lay beneath gray blankets, crying weakly. A pale crescent glowed beneath his ear. Beside him stood a woman in a red healer's robe. Grace recognized her. Dr. Evelyn Cross had served the Bloodline Council before disappearing after Marcus's arrest. You burned the sanctuary, Grace said. Evelyn smiled. I freed those women from the illusion that your new law could protect them. You stole their names. I preserved them. Grace moved toward the cradle. 2 armed men stepped from behind the pillars. Evelyn raised one hand. The child is not yours. No child is. The words sharpened the silence. Evelyn's expression hardened. Marcus understood what rare bloodlines could create. He lacked patience. Kings always do. Grace looked at the infant. His scent carried silver moon blood, but something else lay beneath it. Smoke. Ash. A bloodline believed extinct after the first pack wars. What did you do to him? Nothing nature did not begin. Evelyn opened one of the stolen ledgers. Silver moon mothers can awaken dormant royal lines. Noah proved it. Grace's stomach turned. You intend to breed children for power. I intend to build rulers who cannot be controlled by weak councils or sentimental kings. The child cried again. Grace's mark flared. Through the bond, she felt his fear. Not words, not thoughts. A desperate reaching toward safety. Grace stepped closer. One guard drew his sword. Sarah dropped a clay vial beneath his feet. Sleeping smoke exploded across the floor. Grace lunged toward the cradle as the second guard grabbed her cloak. She twisted free, drove her elbow into his chest, and pulled the child against her body. The infant quieted immediately. Evelyn seized the ledger and ran toward the rear passage. Grace could not pursue while holding the newborn. Sarah reached the outer door and sounded a silver whistle. Hooves thundered beyond the monastery. Ethan entered with Daniel and 4 royal guards. Noah rested against Ethan's chest beneath a protective sling. Grace stared at him. You were supposed to remain at the castle. I did, Ethan said, until Noah began leading us toward you. The 2 infants turned toward each other. Noah's amber eyes brightened. The rescued child's crescent glowed red. A pulse of power moved through the monastery, extinguishing every candle. From the rear passage came Evelyn's voice. You changed the law too late, Grace. The bloodlines have already awakened. Then the tunnel collapsed behind her. Daniel recovered 2 stolen record cases, but the final ledger was gone. Grace looked down at the child in her arms. A name had been stitched into his blanket. Lucas Cross, Evelyn's son. Ethan stood beside Grace as Noah reached toward the frightened infant. She did not steal him, Grace whispered. No, Ethan said. She created this plan around him. Outside, a distant horn answered from the eastern mountains. Then another, and another. Grace held Lucas closer as ancient scents began awakening across the forest. The sanctuary fire had not been an isolated attack. It had been a signal. Those horns are not calling an army, Grace said. They are waking every child whose bloodline was forced into silence. The eastern mountains answered with another distant blast. Lucas trembled in Grace's arms while Noah reached toward him from Ethan's protective sling. Amber and crimson light flickered between the 2 infants, pulsing through the monastery stones. Daniel returned from the collapsed tunnel. Evelyn escaped through an older passage. The final ledger contains 12 pregnancies and 7 newborns. Sarah opened one of the recovered record cases. A map had been sewn beneath its lining. Silver circles marked hidden sanctuaries across the 7 packs. Lines connected them to a single place in the northern mountains. The Moonwell. Grace recognized the name from her mother's warnings. Before royal councils controlled bloodlines through records and marriages, the Moonwell allowed rare wolves to recognize one another. It had been sealed after rulers began using it to awaken powers in children too young to survive them. Evelyn was going there. She needs the final ledger to know which children will answer the call, Grace said. Ethan looked toward the mountains. Then we reach the well before she does. No royal army. His expression tightened. Grace, if frightened parents see Blackwood banners surrounding their children, Evelyn's accusations will sound true. Grace handed Lucas to Sarah. We go as parents, healers, and witnesses, not as rulers collecting bloodlines. Ethan looked down at Noah. Then he removed the royal crest from his cloak. Beside you. They rode through the night. By dawn, the Moonwell appeared between 2 frozen cliffs. Dozens of families had already gathered around the ancient stone basin. Mothers held crying infants. Young wolves struggled against involuntary shifts while frightened fathers searched the surrounding ridges for help. At the center stood Evelyn Cross. The stolen ledger rested upon a silver altar. You came exactly as Marcus predicted, she called. The king, the silver moon mother, and the child who awakened them all. Grace dismounted. Noah awakened nothing. You used stolen records and fear. I gave forgotten bloodlines the courage to return. You gave children pain they could not understand. Evelyn raised both hands. The Moonwell ignited. Silver light spread through the carved channels beneath every family. Children screamed. Noah arched against Ethan's chest. Lucas's crimson crescent burned through his blanket. Grace felt the call tear through her own wolf. Shift. Claim. Control. She understood Evelyn's plan. The Moonwell was not merely awakening bloodlines. It was binding them to the strongest silver moon presence. To Grace. Evelyn wanted every frightened family to believe Grace had seized their children through magic. She is making me the center of the ritual, Grace said. Ethan drew his sword. How do we stop it? The same way we changed the law. Grace looked at the channels feeding the central altar. We removed the single point of control. She ran toward the well. Evelyn's guards moved to intercept her, but the gathered parents stepped between them. Not soldiers, mothers, fathers, healers, people whose names had been stolen from the sanctuary ledgers. Ethan remained beside Noah instead of charging ahead. His scent steadied the infant while Grace reached the altar. Evelyn seized the ledger. If you break the Moonwell, their bloodlines may disappear forever. Then they will decide when they are old enough whether they want them awakened. Grace placed both hands against the central stone. Silver fire climbed her arms. Her wolf roared beneath her skin. The well demanded one ruler, one guardian, one bloodline above the rest. Grace refused. Every parent, she shouted, place your hand on the outer stones. Families surrounded the basin. One by one, they touched the carved ring. The Moonwell's power divided among them. The central flame weakened. Evelyn stared in disbelief. You are giving away what could make you queen. I am returning what was never mine. Grace struck the altar with the iron healer's blade. The central stone cracked. Light surged outward, not into Grace, but into every family around the well. The children stopped screaming. Their marks remained, but the compulsion vanished. Noah opened his amber eyes. Lucas's crimson crescent softened to a warm glow. Evelyn lunged for the final ledger. Sarah reached it first and threw it into the Moonwell's dying flame. Names, locations, and bloodline records curled into ash. Evelyn screamed. You destroyed generations of knowledge. Grace faced her across the broken altar. No, I destroyed your map to children who never consented to be found. Daniel's guards arrested Evelyn without raising royal banners. The gathered families watched Ethan approach Grace with Noah in his arms. He did not announce victory. He did not claim the Moonwell. He placed their son against her chest and waited. Grace kissed Noah's forehead. Around them, parents began leaving through 12 separate mountain paths, carrying their children toward homes no central ledger would record. Ethan looked at the shattered well. What replaces it? Grace watched the last silver flames disappear. Local healers, voluntary records, parents who control their own information, and no single guardian? She met his eyes. No single person should ever hold every child's future in their hands. Behind them, the first sunlight crossed the broken altar. For centuries, powerful wolves had treated rare blood as a kingdom's resource. That morning, the bloodlines belonged to the families carrying them. Blood can reveal where a child comes from, Grace said. It must never decide who that child is allowed to become. 3 months after the moon well was broken, representatives from all 7 packs gathered in the restored northern sanctuary. No royal banners hung above the entrance. Instead, 7 healer emblems surrounded a simple wooden sign. The child belongs first to themselves. Grace stood beside Sarah as families entered the courtyard carrying infants whose rare bloodlines had once made them targets. No central ledger recorded their names. Each sanctuary maintained voluntary medical files protected by the families themselves. No king, council, or bloodline guardian could access them without permission. Ethan had signed the charter without adding a royal seal. The law belonged to the people it protected. Evelyn Cross had been convicted of kidnapping, arson, medical coercion, and using the moon well against children. She would spend the rest of her life healing ordinary prisoners under constant supervision, forbidden from accessing bloodline records. Lucas remained with Sarah until the council could determine his safest future. Grace visited him every morning. The crimson crescent beneath his ear had faded to a small mark. He smiled whenever Noah reached toward him, as though the 2 infants remembered the moment their cries had found each other across the forest. No titles, Grace reminded the elders when they called Lucas a fireborn heir. No prophecies, Sarah added. Only Lucas. The elders recorded his name and nothing more. That evening, Grace walked beyond the sanctuary with Noah sleeping against her shoulder. Spring had reached the northern mountains. Water ran beneath the melting snow, and white flowers grew between the stones where royal guards had once stood. Ethan waited beside 2 horses. He wore a plain dark cloak. No armor. No crown. You missed the final council vote, Grace said. I was asked to remain outside. And you obeyed? I am becoming remarkably skilled at it. She smiled. Over the past 3 months, Ethan had divided his time between the capital and every sanctuary affected by Marcus and Evelyn's schemes. He had repaired clinics without naming them after himself. He had listened to mothers criticize the crown without demanding gratitude. And every night he returned, he asked before lifting Noah from Grace's arms. Ethan looked at their sleeping son. May I? Grace placed Noah against his chest. The child stirred, recognized his father's scent, and settled beneath the dark cloak. Ethan's expression softened with the same wonder he had shown in the healer's cottage. He had known Noah was his from one breath. Becoming his father had taken patience, humility, and choice. The council asked again whether I would accept the Luna title, Grace said. Ethan remained quiet. I refused again. I know. You do not seem disappointed. I want you beside me because you choose to be there. I do not need a title to prove it. Grace studied him beneath the fading sunlight. And what do you need? His amber eyes met hers. A life where Noah never wonders whether he was loved for himself or for his blood. Grace stepped closer. And us. Ethan did not answer immediately. I love you, he said, but I will not use that love as another claim. The mate bond warmed between them. Not a command. An invitation. Grace touched his face. Then she kissed him. Ethan held Noah securely between them, one hand resting gently against Grace's back. When they separated, he pressed his forehead to hers. Are we going home? He asked. Grace looked toward the sanctuary behind them and the open road ahead. Not to the palace. Where then? She smiled. To the cottage where you first smelled your son. Together, they mounted their horses. Noah slept against Ethan's heart as they rode toward Frost Hollow. Once, Grace had hidden her pregnancy because she believed the Alpha King's recognition would take her child away. Instead, that single scent had exposed a kingdom's cruelty, awakened forgotten bloodlines, and forced a powerful man to learn that recognizing a family was not the same as owning one. The moon rose over the road. Grace rode beside Ethan, not behind his crown, not beneath his protection, but by her own choice. And between them rested a child whose future belonged to no throne.